So I'm back from a kind of a brief little break and feeling quite refreshed. And it's interesting that I have a title called Do Not Fret, Trusting God. Do not fret, trusting God. I can spend a lot of time in my life fretting. I can fret about lots of things. One thing I've noticed, though, that anytime I come off a little bit of a break like I've had, it just seems like the world seems a lot less stressful to me. And I think it has a lot to do when we care for ourselves. We're able to handle some of the everyday stressors of life. I was saying to Mark just before the service, there was a time when, you have young kids and you're just, hoping you get them to school, and my daughter always laughed. She said, "Dad, the only time I thought you were really a bad dad is the day you lost it. I was trying to put a boot on Melissa's foot, and she was stubborn, as she usually is, and finally I just took the boot and I threw it down the hall, and I didn't hit her, but I threw the boot, and she knew I meant business." And I realized in that time, it was a very stressful time at work, and I was a dad trying to get 3 kids off to school. Now, I was saying to Mark, though, I open up my phone, and with this new technology called WhatsApp, my kids, instead of sending individual one-on-one texts to the 3 of them, they send this group message stuff. So, I can get crazy pictures one minute, the next minute I have like, oh hell, that was a really bad midterm, I think I bombed it, to I'm having a wonderful day today hiking on Lake Ontario in Kingston, So it's a crazy little world when you look at this WhatsApp. But no matter what I read, even for my kids right now, I feel pretty relaxed about it. And I think there's a big truth in how important it is to take care of yourself. So what has this got to do with good old King David and his psalm about not fretting? Well, here's my scoop on this. There's a theory out there that this psalm that Barbara read is almost like King David in grandfather stage of life, where he's now of older age, and he's given a little bit of wisdom that we are often so blessed when we're older. And the wisdom is simply, things might seem really bad right now. The powers that be and the world that you're living in, you're wondering, what's going on in Venezuela. You're wondering right now how the economy is going to go, what the housing market's going to be like. You're wondering if this political mess in so many countries is ever going to change. And King David, in so many ways, is saying, don't fret, don't worry. It will kind of work itself out in the long run. Now, that doesn't mean you just become passive and you don't care about justice issues, because it's just all going to work out in the long end. But there's a little bit of wisdom, I believe, in trying to take a deep breath, rise above for a moment, and become aware of what's happening in your own life. So I want to give you some examples from my own journey. As we look at this day of this incredible church of ours, we're going to look at a report that I believe expresses the passion of the people in this community. And your passions range in all different areas, from a love of music, a love of gathering together. Maybe it's to make pies, maybe it's Holly Fair, maybe it's studying Bible studies on Thursday. Whatever that passion is, it might even be badminton. But there's all kinds of passions here at Trinity. And that's a wonderful thing to celebrate. And that's what today is about for me. And I found out this week, when I had a little bit of time, I had really unscheduled time. And I found out what some of my passions were. And I want you to think about what the passions are in your life. So yeah, I did go to Kingston and spend a little time with my daughter. That was certainly, family's a big passion. I understand that. But I also want you to think for a minute, when you need a little bit of energy in life, where do you get your energy from? Where does that come from for you? Some, it's singing. For me, I found out this week that I get a little bit of energy. I got back on the ski hill. Hey, Gil, first time this year. First time. And I was missing my 90-year-old friend that's hung up the skis, but I still realized how much I enjoyed it. I found out this week that, George, you gave me a book over, I think about a year ago, Eric Liddell's book. And I started reading a book that had been kindly loaned, and I realized how much I am enjoying a book and a story about a wonderful human being. Another thing I learned this week is I had no plan to do this, but I ended up watching 3 movies, and here we are on Oscar night. Andrew's been telling me about Star is Born, and wow. Then I saw Green Book here in Guelph, and then to my surprise, I actually watched Roma. Now you have to understand, as a sports guy like I am, I listen to sports radio, and these guys are saying, oh, I started watching Roma, black and white, based in 1970s in Mexico City, and the sports guy on the radio said about 10 minutes into it, I was snoring and I was passed out. Well, I have something to say to you about Roma. I think everyone, if you could get a chance, I know it's on Netflix, it didn't come through the movie scene to the same degree, but Roma is a lesson about a director reflecting on his childhood, which was in the 70s. And what really struck me about that movie is when you could hang in with it, hang in terms of black and white, it seemed to be a movie at times of I was asking, well, what is the point of this story of a wonderful woman or family that is a maid to a middle-class family? And my son kind of summarized it at the end of it for me. He said, well, that was a real biblical movie. And he kind of hit me, what do you mean? And he said, that movie really slowed us down. It really slowed in a really powerful way. Suddenly, I was drawn into this movie about a family in Mexico City in 1970s. And all of a sudden, as you looked at the life of people living an everyday life like we all do, and you saw the injustices, you saw how badly women were treated, the bad mistakes some of the men were making, but also the very tender, unconditional love moments. The moments that I said to myself, there is something to be said about not fretting and trusting in God. And so this week, I did some things that kind of surprised me a little bit more than I've never seen 3 movies in a week, that's for sure, that I recall. But I found in this week, my friends, a reconnection with the Spirit. And I felt really at peace about that. And I want to end with this. We made a big decision this week whether or not to go to a meeting, because I knew it was my official holidays, but there was a meeting concerning North End Harvest Market. And it's one of our passions, I think, here at Trinity. It's one of our missions to the neighborhood here in the Northeast Guelph. And it was a visioning day, and it was downtown Guelph, and I knew I was going to get some food, so I thought I could handle that one. And probably nobody at Trinity would be there. Well, Heather Chesney was there, so you can't either. But it was a social worker that was leading the visioning time. I thought, okay, I really do care about the work they're doing. And I was really glad I spent 2-3 hours downtown across from City Hall at this wonderful gathering where we imagined what we were hoping for the future. And I kind of end with this, because when you just kind of let go and you just trust God, the social worker, Brandon, who I think the world of, working for the neighborhood community, we were talking about, when it comes down to the end of the day, we're always trying to figure out where to get more money and how do you do what you want to do. And I just said, well, I'm going to throw a vision out. And I said, I think Trinity really does care about the poor in our neighborhood. And I said, I think the Catholics do as well. We've been trying to get together with Holy Rosary. Those optimists, they put on a good supper. Service clubs, churches, who else could we throw in there? We could throw in the Lions Club as well. And Brendan, I don't have a clue if he's a church-going guy, but he's a social worker. He looked at me and he said, the Catholics, the Protestants, and service clubs all getting together for a good cause. And Brandon said, John, if you can ever achieve that, I'm going to get you the nicest sash. You are going to have the nicest sash. And in that moment, my friends, the food, the fellowship, and the thought of maybe having a sash one day, sometimes you just don't fret and trust in God.